Marcus Liang's phone buzzed just as Leo tried to climb out of the booster's seat. "Sit," Marcus said, one hand on the steering wheel, the other catching his 4-year-old by the back of the hoodie. "Feet stay down. Gravity is not your friend." Max was in the other seat, turning his empty juice box into a drum, heels thumping the back of the front seat in perfect chaotic rhythm. "We're here," he sang, even though they were very clearly still in line for the parking lot. They weren't moving. Traffic for Riverside Bistro crawled in fits and starts, red taillights glowing all the way to the curve of the river. Inside the borrowed Honda, it smelled like apple juice, plastic, crayons, and the faint trace of motor oil from the security chief who owned the car. His phone buzzed again. Marcus glanced down at the screen. "Sorry, blind date is off. I can't date a broke single dad. Good luck." Broke. He stared at the word for 2 seconds too long. Someone leaned on their horn behind him. The sound snapped through his skull. He rolled forward into the lot and parked in the first too tight space he found, wedging the Honda between a giant SUV and a sedan so shiny it probably had a mortgage. His hand stayed on the phone. Broke. The building her apartment was in? He owned it. The app she'd messaged him on. His company's code ran under it. Vaultline, his AI security firm, had been on the cover of 3 magazines last year alone. But in this car, in these jeans that didn't sit right on his hips, with 2 sticky, loud children and a plastic dinosaur on the floor, she'd picked her word and bowled him over with it. "Daddy," Leo strained against the seatbelt. "We're hungry." "I'm starving," Max added, stretching the word like it meant he might die in 30 seconds. "You had snacks in the car," Marcus said, shoving the phone face down into the cup holder. "That was a long time ago," Max argued. "It was 10 minutes. Leo sighed dramatically. "We're wasting away." "Okay, Oscar winners. Let's go." He got out and opened the back door. Leo was already halfway out of his buckle, both legs twisted in the strap. Max had dropped his juice box and was digging between the seat and the door. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked. "I dropped Blue," Max said, voice urgent. Blue was the blue plastic velociraptor currently wedged under the seat. Marcus stuck 2 fingers into the shadowy crevice and fished around until he felt plastic. He tugged hard. Blue popped up like a fish on a hook. "There," he said, slapping the dinosaur into Max's hand. "Blue survives another day. Now shoes on. Both of you. Ideally on the correct feet." They tumbled out of the car. Leo's sneakers were on the wrong feet. Max's laces were 2 loose knots pretending to be tied. Marcus fixed what he could and decided the rest was a problem for future him. Riverside Bistro glowed ahead. Warm yellow light. Big windows. People silhouetted against the glass. The kind of place people chose when they wanted their evening to feel like a scene in a movie. "Boys," Marcus said as they walked, one small hand in each of his. "Rules. Go. No licking the table," Leo recited. "No screaming in people's ears," Max added. "And," Marcus prompted. They both frowned, thinking. You could almost hear the gears grinding. "No throwing food," Max tried. "No climbing the curtains," Leo said. "That's new, but I appreciate the foresight." Inside voices, remember? They reached the door. Warmth and sound hit them the moment he pushed it open. Soft jazz from invisible speakers. Clinking silverware. A swirl of perfume, garlic, butter, and wine. The hostess looked up, smile automatic, then hesitated when she saw the twins. 2 small boys. One already turning in a slow circle to look at the ceiling. One examining a potted plant like it might fight back. "You brought children to a date?" she murmured before she seemed to remember she wasn't supposed to say things like that out loud. "It's not really a date anymore," Marcus said. Her eyes flicked to his bare ring finger, then to the resting Honda key fob in his hand, then to the twins, who were currently poking the base of a tall glass vase. Something in her face shifted. Pity softened into something closer to understanding. "We can put you near the back," she offered. "Less breakable stuff." "Back sounds great." She grabbed menus and led them through the room. The boys wove through the maze of tables, bumping into chair legs and saying sorry too loudly. "Sorry, sir," Leo said to a man whose napkin he'd tugged. Nice shoes, Max told a stranger just because. Marcus kept them moving. The hostess stopped at a corner booth half hidden by a tall plant, the river visible through the window behind it. Here, she said. You'll have some space. Perfect. Thanks. The twins scrambled in. Leo crawled under the table and popped up on the far side. Max grabbed the salt shaker and lifted it high. Mountain, he declared. Paper, Marcus warned, reaching. Mountains go on paper, not. The salt poured out in a white stream before he could finish. Not on the table, he finished helplessly. Max stared at the glittering pile. It's snow, he whispered, delighted. Marcus pinched the bridge of his nose, grabbed his napkin, and started scooping. By the time he'd stopped the avalanche and redirected both boys to the kids' menu, his shoulders ached and his jaw hurt from clenching. It felt like most days lately, contained chaos, held together by thin threads of routine and hope. Daddy, Leo said, drawing circles on the table with one finger. Is she still coming? He didn't ask who. Leo meant the date. The mystery woman who'd sounded nice on the app. The one who'd just sent a text that used the word broke like a set of weights. No, Marcus said. She changed her mind. Did we scare her? Max asked seriously. Marcus looked at their earnest faces. No, he said. That's not on you. He pictured his wallet on the console table by his front door, where he dropped it when he changed out of his usual suit. He pictured his reflection in the mirror before they left. Worn jeans, t-shirt, borrowed jacket. The closest he ever got to looking like a man no one recognized. He'd wanted one evening where nobody at the table was thinking about his bank balance, his company, or his dead wife. He got the evening. The woman had bailed. The server hadn't come yet. The hostess hadn't returned. He was alone with 2 kids and a mountain of spilled salt in a restaurant full of couples trying not to notice them. His phone sat upside down by his elbow, hiding the word broke. Daddy, Leo said, can we draw? We forgot your crayons. Leo stared at his empty hands like they'd betrayed him. But my fingers want to draw. Max nodded vigorously. My fingers too. Use your imagination, Marcus said. Draw in your head. They both glared at him as if he'd suggested they breathe water. Before he could figure out a better answer, the door opened again. A little gust of cool air traveled through the room. Hi, reservation for Nina, a voice asked at the host's stand. A little breathless. Light. Marcus didn't look up. The hostess said something, glanced at her screen. There was a quick exchange. Then footsteps approached, quick, purposeful steps in boots that clicked on the polished floor. Sorry I'm late, a woman's voice said. The subway decided to die 2 stops away, and then some guy tried to sell me a turtle. It was a whole thing. The twins went quiet. Marcus looked up. She stood by the table, cheeks pink from the cold and the rush. Dark hair pulled into what must have started as a neat bun, but had surrendered halfway through the day. Paint stained the sleeve of her cardigan, green, yellow, a streak of blue near her wrist. She carried a big canvas bag weighed down with something that clinked faintly. She glanced at her phone, then at the twins, then at him. Table with kids, she murmured. That tracks. Before Marcus could say anything, she slid into the seat opposite them, dropping her bag beside her. The faint smell of acrylic paint and linseed oil drifted across the table. I'm Nina, she said, smiling first at the boys and then at him. Hi. Marcus opened his mouth. Wrong table. Wrong guy. Wrong everything. He saw it unfold in his mind. A quick apology, an awkward laugh, a shuffle across the dining room to the correct person. You didn't say you were bringing backup, she added, nodding toward the twins. I would have worn something that could survive jelly. Her eyes were tired, but there was humor there too, and something else. Like she was used to making the best of plans that never quite worked. He should have corrected her right then. Instead, Max beat him to words. Are you our date? He asked. Leo frowned, considering. She doesn't look like a date. She looks like art class. Nina put a hand over her heart in mock outrage. Art class. Wow. That is, honestly, the most accurate thing anyone's ever said about me on a first meeting. The corner of Marcus's mouth twitched. You don't look surprised, she said to him. I'm just trying to figure out how the turtle guy fits into this, he said. It was either by the turtle or missed the train, she said. I made the mature decision. No turtle. Full regret. The boys giggled. She pulled a crumpled napkin toward her and dug in her bag. Her fingers came up with a black pen, speckled with old ink stains. You wanted to draw, right? She asked the twins. Leo's eyes lit up. Can you draw blue? Max slapped the toy dinosaur onto the table. Nina studied it like it was a complex portrait commission. Okay, Blue, give me your best angle. Her pen moved quickly. Confident lines, no hesitation. In less than a minute, a cartoon dinosaur took shape on the napkin. Big eyes, too many teeth, tiny arms raised like it was mid-rant. The boys leaned in, completely absorbed. That's him, Leo whispered. That's his thinking face, Max added. What does he think about? Nina asked. Snacks, they answered together. Nina laughed, bright and surprised, and something inside Marcus loosened. She didn't flinch away from the mess. She didn't look like she was calculating how fast she could eat and leave. She didn't seem to notice his cheap jacket or the absence of anything designer on the table. She was just there. The server came over, took drink orders, milk for the boys, iced tea for Nina, water for Marcus. They ordered grilled cheese, fries, soup. Nina didn't even glance at the more expensive side of the menu. The boys talked. She listened. She told them about kids in her art class who tried to paint the ceiling. They told her about Blue's complicated backstory and how he had an enemy named Crunch who was a broccoli. Marcus listened more than he spoke. Every now and then, Nina's gaze flicked to him, checking he was okay in the storm of kid noise. He nodded each time, and she seemed to relax a little more. If you're already feeling this moment, hit that subscribe button. This story is just getting started. The check arrived earlier than it should have, tucked discreetly onto the edge of the table. The server gave Marcus a quick sorry about that look. Marcus reached for his back pocket. Nothing. Right pocket. Nothing. Jacket. Nothing. He patted each spot again, faster. The world narrowed to the absence of a familiar rectangular weight. His heart thumped once hard. He could see it perfectly now. Brown leather, sitting on the hall table at home next to the bowl where Leo liked to dump rocks. His stomach dropped. Everything okay? Nina asked quietly. He stared at the folded leather sleeve containing the bill. All he'd have to do was raise his hand, say his name, and the restaurant would bend over backwards to fix it. The server would run his card manually. The manager would probably comp half the meal out of panic. His anonymity would shatter. Nina would know. The boys would hear. The magic of this stupid, simple, normal-feeling evening would evaporate. He started. Nina was already pulling her own wallet from her bag. It was old, worn at the edges, paint speckled like everything else she owned. I've got it, she said. No, he said quickly. I can't let you. You're not letting me, she said. I'm choosing. I can pay for grilled cheese. I had a good week. All my kids showed up, and only one of them ate paint. He gave a strangled half-laugh. That's your metric for success? You do not want to know what a bad week looks like. I'll transfer it to you later, he tried. Or Marcus. She said his name like she was setting it down on the table between them, firm and gentle. You look like you needed someone to be kind tonight. Let me do this one thing. You can buy the fries next time. Next time. His throat tightened. He released the edge of the bill slowly. His fingers had left small creases in the paper. Okay, he said. She paid. Signed without flair. Didn't joke about being poor now, or make some pointed comment about men who forget their wallets. The boys were too busy using the last of the fries to build a tiny fort to notice. Later, when the twins were sliding toward sleep, Leo's head heavy on Nina's arm, Max absently petting Blue like a cat, she drew one last quick doodle. 2 dinosaurs with crooked crowns and a little heart between them. For your fridge, she said, handing it to Marcus. The napkin crinkled between his fingers. As they stepped outside into the cooler air, the river moving in the dark behind the restaurant, Max clung to her leg. Come draw with us again, he mumbled. Nina smoothed his hair. I'd like that. She looked up at Marcus. I'm glad I sat at the wrong table, she said. He didn't say, "You have no idea." He watched her walk away instead. The paint-smudged cardigan, the tired but buoyant step, the way she tucked her hair back and missed, leaving a streak of green near her ear. The boys slept in the car on the way home, mouths open, cheeks smushed against the seat belts. At a red light, Marcus lifted the napkin again. 2 crowned dinosaurs, a heart. His chest hurt in a way that didn't feel like only grief. He woke up the next morning telling himself it was one of those lightning strike moments you never got back. A glitch in the system. A beautiful, impossible evening with a stranger who didn't want anything from him. It lasted until he heard Leo in the kitchen say, "When is drawing lady coming back?" And Max answer, "Maybe she got lost." On Saturday, he found himself driving toward Maple Avenue. He told himself he was just going for coffee, that he'd happen to walk by the Arts Center, glance in, and that would be enough. The hand-painted sign, Maple Community Arts Center, grinned at him from the brick facade. Underneath, a poster with crooked tape read, "Kids painting class today. Are we going?" Max asked from the back seat, already unbuckling. "We're investigating," Marcus said. "Investigating is yes," Leo decided. They burst through the front doors 10 minutes later. Inside, the building smelled like glue sticks, paint, and something sweet, maybe juice or cookies. Children's art lined the walls. The air vibrated with kid noise. Down the hall, a familiar voice floated out. "Okay, team, rule number 1. Paint goes on the paper, not on your neighbor. Rule number 2. We like the ceiling. We respect the ceiling. We do not paint the ceiling." The twins sprinted. They skidded to a stop in the classroom doorway. Nina stood in the middle of the room, ponytail barely holding, paintbrush in one hand, the other on her hip. 6 kids surrounded her, all in various stages of mess and concentration. "Nina," Leo yelled. She turned. Recognition hit her face in stages, surprise, disbelief, then something softer. "You," she said, half laughing. "You brought the Chaos Brigade." "They brought me," Marcus said, stepping up behind the boys. She slid the paintbrush behind her ear, leaving a streak of blue in her hair. "You know, if you keep showing up like this, I'm going to start charging you tuition." "That implies you get paid," one of the kids said. Nina made a face. "Hush, don't expose my financial situation." She handed the twins 2 tiny aprons that had clearly seen better days. "You guys want to make volcanoes or storms?" "Volcano storms," Max said immediately. "Ambitious," Nina said. "I respect it." She jerked her chin at Marcus. "Sink's that way if you want something to do. Brushes don't wash themselves." He spent the class at the sink, turning brushes under the water while kids came and went to rinse their hands, dropping bits of conversation in his orbit. "Can I put glitter on his face?" "Not unless he consents," Nina answered from somewhere behind him. "Mia, that canvas is not a battlefield. Choose peace." Leo's laugh floated across the room. Max's serious, "This is important," voice narrated his volcano storm. Every now and then, Marcus glanced over his shoulder. Nina knelt beside a girl who'd painted a huge red smear over her entire paper. "That looks like a lot of feeling," Nina said. "Want to tell me about it?" The girl shrugged, tense. "We can give the feeling somewhere to go," Nina said. "Want to add some yellow? Give it a friend." The girl hesitated, then nodded. By the time class ended, the room looked like a crime scene committed by rainbows. The kids were splattered. So were the tables. So were Nina's jeans. The twins were beaming. "Say thank you," Marcus told them. "Thank you," they chorused. "For what?" she asked. "For letting us paint," Leo said. "And not dying." She snorted. "Low bar, but I'm glad I cleared it." He helped her stack chairs after the last child left. Sunlight poured through tall windows, catching motes of paint dust in the air. "Do you always look like that after class?" he asked, nodding at the streaks on her skin. "Like a drop cloth?" she asked. "Yes. Like you fought the paint, and the paint won." She grinned. "Paint always wins. You should see my laundry." They fell into a rhythm. Arts Center, park, sometimes the cottage. He tried not to notice every time Max leaned into her or Leo chose to sit next to her at the table. He failed. On a windy afternoon, he found her putting little sticky notes on each sketchbook at the cottage kitchen table, stars on some, kind words on all. You do that for every student? He asked. Words stick longer than grades, she said. No pun intended. Pun absolutely intended. Maybe a little. He leaned on the doorframe and watched her quietly. The notes were simple. You tried something new. I'm proud of you. I love how brave this color is. He pictured a small hand flipping that page in a loud, crowded home and seeing it. Something hard in him softened another degree. Weeks passed. The boys' worlds expanded to include Nina, as if she'd always been part of their orbit. Drop a like if you believe in second chances and wrong tables leading to right people. Then came the Tuesday. His morning started with coffee, emails, 3 tense messages from his COO, and a calendar ping reminding him of a board call. Nothing unusual. He was tying his tie when his phone exploded with notifications. He frowned and checked the screen. A news app pushed an alert. His name in bold. A photo beneath it. Nina, smiling, walking out of the art center. Max holding her hand, mid-swing. Leo jumping beside her. The picture was grainy, shot from across the street, but there was no mistaking them. Underneath, in huge letters, who was the mystery woman with tech billionaire Marcus Liang's sons? Disbelief hit first, then anger, then a cold, sharp fear. He scrolled. More photos. People had dug up the old ones. Him and Julia at a gala. Him leaving a courthouse once. Him at the IPO bell. All of them juxtaposed with Nina's candid laugh and the twins' unguarded faces. His phone rang. Nina, he said, answering without checking the ID. It was his PR director. Marcus, don't say anything. We already have a holding statement. We can spin this as a mentoring thing, or he hung up and tried Nina again. Voicemail. He tried the art center. The director's voice came back thick with stress. Marcus, we're getting calls from donors. Parents, we can't have this kind of attention. You understand, right? What does that have to do with Nina? Marcus asked, even though his stomach already knew. She's at the center of it, the director said. For now, her classes are suspended. Until we can calm things down. Suspended. He pictured the room without her in it. Easels waiting. Brushes drying. Kids showing up to find replaced faces. That's not fair, he said. It's survival, the director said. For us. We don't have your safety net. Marcus gripped the phone. I can't throw money at it, the director asked, not unkindly. You could, but then you're not just a headline. You're a hand in everything. Let us handle our side. You handle yours. And if you care about her at all, be careful what you touch. The line went dead. Across the city, Nina stood at her window, phone in her hand, bare feet cold against the apartment floor. The same photo stared back at her from her screen. Her, the boys, the art center sign. Her heart climbed into her throat. Her boss had already called. Donors threatening to pull out. Parents worrying about cameras near their kids. A temporary pause on all her classes. Temporary. She'd heard that before. In foster homes, it had meant forever. On the street below, 2 vans pulled up. People got out slowly, shoulders hunched against the wind. Lenses glinted. Her legs wobbled. She pulled the curtain shut. Her phone vibrated with messages. Are you with him? You trending LOL girl. Get that bag, you okay? Want me to come over? Free from Marcus. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. I'm coming over. She stared at them until they blurred, then set the phone face down on the table and walked away. She didn't go outside for 3 days. The reporters camped under her window. Neighbors whispered in the hall. Someone took a selfie with the building door and tagged it with his name and a winking emoji. The art center didn't call back. When she finally turned her phone on again on the 4th morning, new alerts flooded in. The story had moved on, but the echo of it hadn't. Job gone. Routine snapped. Reputation bent just enough that some doors would close now. People had short attention spans, but institutions had long memories. She was standing by the sink, cup of cold coffee in her hand, when someone knocked on the door. Firm. Familiar. Nina. His voice reached right through wood and drywall, and the protective layers she tried to stack back up. She froze. "Please," he said. "Just let me talk." She moved toward the door despite herself. Every step felt like stepping into traffic. Down on the sidewalk, he could feel the cameras behind him like teeth. They'd followed his car here. They always did. He didn't care. He stood at her door, hand resting flat on it, and raised his voice enough to carry over the noise outside. "I can't stop them from caring who I stand next to," he said. "I wish I could. I've tried, but I can't." He pulled in a breath. "I can stand here instead of you. I can answer the questions. I can take the picture and say, yes, she's important, and no, you don't get to rip her apart just because she had dinner with me and 2 kids who spilled salt." A laugh broke out of him, short and humorless. Max is very offended his volcano painting got no coverage, by the way. On the other side of the door, Nina pressed her hand against the wood. He kept going. "The boys ask about you every night," he said. "Leo keeps that little barrette you brought in his pocket. He says if he holds it, he doesn't miss you as much." Max started drawing storms with no volcanoes. "He says the volcano left." Her face crumpled. She braced her shoulder against the door, as if the weight of her own heart might knock it down. "You need to protect your sons," she said, voice barely audible. She pulled the lock back, but left the chain on. The door opened 2 inches. They could see each other. Just eyes. Just pieces of faces. "Hi," he said softly. She swallowed. "You shouldn't have come." "I couldn't not." "You walking up those stairs is a headline," she said. "You knocking on my door is a headline. You saying my name out loud is a headline." "I know. I spent my whole life trying not to be a headline," she said. "Or a file number. Or a case. I worked for boring. For steady. And in a few weeks with you, I lost my classes, my reputation with half the parents, and 3 donors who think I'm sleeping my way into better funding." He flinched like she'd slapped him. "I never thought." "I know you didn't," she said. "That's part of the problem." Down on the street, someone shouted his name. He looked toward the noise, then back at her. "Send them away," she said. "Just this once. If I say anything, it'll make it worse." She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "but I can't open this door all the way and let them in with you. I can't survive my life being a side story every time they need content." He didn't answer right away. His jaw worked, his throat moved. "Okay," he said finally. "If you ever, please go," she whispered, her fingers tightening on the door. He drew his hand away from the wood slowly, like it hurt to lose that contact. "Tell the boys." Her voice shook. "Tell them I'm okay." He could tell her that was a lie. That okay people didn't sound like that. Didn't look like that through a 2-inch crack. He didn't. "I'll tell them," he said. Then he walked away through the cameras. They shouted at him, asking if she was his new love, if he'd forgotten his wife, if this was a rebound. He kept his eyes on the car and his mouth shut. Inside, Nina slid down until she was sitting on the floor with her back against the door. She stayed there until the light shifted and the sounds outside thinned. That night, she got an email officially terminating her classes at the art center. Budget restructuring, it said. Program reprioritization. Words that had nothing to do with her and everything to do with the donors whose names lined the plaque in the lobby. She read it twice, then deleted it, then pulled it out of the trash folder just so she could delete it again. In the days that followed, the reporters left. New scandals rose. The street quieted. Neighbors still glanced her way like she might break. Some smiled. Some didn't. No one asked if she was okay. She rearranged the furniture twice. Sorted her art supplies. Looked up part-time jobs that paid less than the cost of her paints. Not teaching those kids hurt worse than losing the paycheck. She told herself this was safer. No cameras. No billionaire outside her door. No little hearts to hold and lose again. Comment below if you've ever had to choose between safety and love. I want to hear your story. Across town, the tower's glass reflected the sunset like nothing had changed. Inside it had. Marcus stayed late at the office more, but work didn't numb him like it used to. Every spreadsheet reminded him of budgets the art center didn't have. Every investor call about reputational risk tasted bitter. He couldn't stop thinking about her kneeling on the floor, kids pressed against her. About the way she'd said, I worked for boring. For steady. The twins moved through the house slower. Is Nina on vacation? Max asked on the second night. No, Marcus said. Did she get mad? Leo asked. No. They looked at him, waiting for the rest of the truth he didn't know how to put into 4-year-old sentences. She had to take a break, he said. From us. From all the noise. Is it our fault? Max whispered. Marcus pulled them both into his lap. No, he said. Hear me. No? None of this is your fault. Grown-up mess is grown-up mess. You two are the only good thing in half this story. Leo toyed with Blue's tail, thinking that over. Can we fix it? He wished they could. On the third night, he woke up to the sound of little feet padding down the hall. Leo crawled under the covers wordlessly. Max followed with his blanket trailing. They lay there a while in the dark. She sees my hair, Leo mumbled into the pillow. She puts it up so I can see. Now my hair is in my eyes. Marcus's throat tightened. The next day at the cottage, he found Leo with a crumpled sticky note stuck to his shirt. In shaky letters it said, Hugs fix stuff. Who wrote that? Marcus asked. I did, Leo said proudly. For Nina. He and Max spent the afternoon at the kitchen table creating a new picture. Not dinosaurs. Not storms. Not houses. 3 stick figures standing under a big, wobbly heart. 2 small ones, 1 big. They labeled them clumsily. Me, you. Below, in Max's blocky letters and Leo's smaller swirls, they wrote, We bring our hearts. Where? Marcus asked softly. To her house, Max said. So she knows. Leo nodded. Then she won't be scared of us. Fear. The words shouldn't have fit in their mouths. On Sunday, Marcus buckled them into the SUV. Are we in trouble? Leo asked. No, Marcus said. We're going to say how we feel. That's never trouble. He took back streets. Parked around the corner from Nina's building. The twins walked the sidewalk with solemn purpose, holding their drawing between them like a sacred object. At her door, Max knocked, then grabbed Leo's hand. Inside, Nina was standing over the trash can, trying to decide whether to throw out a flyer for a job she didn't want. The knock cut through her indecision. Her heart knew before her head did. She opened the door a crack. 2 small faces filled the gap. Hi, Leo whispered. Something inside her simply gave up trying to be strong. She undid the chain with fingers that shook and pulled the door open all the way. The boys collided with her. She went to her knees fast and held on instinctively. Their little arms tightened around her neck. Their hair smelled like shampoo and crayons and something that felt like home. I missed you, she sobbed into Max's shoulder. We brought our hearts, he said into her cardigan. So you don't have to be lonely. Leo shoved the drawing into her hand. We bring our hearts. Behind them, Marcus stood in the hall, hands at his sides. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. The polished billionaire edges were gone. This was just a man who'd run out of ways to fix things. I didn't bring cameras, he said. Not even my own PR panic attack. Just us. Nina glanced past the boys at him. There was still caution there. A flicker of fear. But there was something stronger layered over it now. I told myself staying away was protecting you, she said, standing slowly, still holding on to the boys. That I'd ruin your lives if I let mine tangle with yours. She looked around the apartment. The too quiet. The unstacked canvases. The art bag by the door that hadn't left in a week. I just ended up alone, she finished. Marcus stepped closer, stopping at the edge of her threshold like he couldn't cross it without permission. I don't have a plan, he said. Or a speech. I don't know how to promise you safety when the world treats everything I touch like a story. All I know is that these two are quieter without you. And I'm worse without you. That's not a strong pitch, she said, voice shaky. I know. He gestured helplessly at the drawing in her hand. They decided this, he said. I just drove the car. She looked at the paper. At their names scrawled under lopsided figures. At the huge heart. If I open this door, she said slowly, I'm not just letting you in. I'm letting in cameras some days. And headlines. And weird looks from neighbors and parents and maybe board members if I ever get another job. He swallowed. Probably. I might never get the art center back, she said. I might be that girl on the internet in some circles forever. I can't fix that, he said. I wish I could. I can help you build something new. Different. Something they don't control. She thought of the kids whose paintings still sat in her cupboard at the center. Of their faces when they heard she wouldn't be there. Of all the rooms that didn't even know they needed paint yet. She looked down at Leo, who was staring at her like his whole world depended on the answer she was about to give. The cost felt huge. Being with Marcus meant never fully blending into the background again. It meant occasionally being pointed at in grocery stores. It meant sometimes explaining to strangers that, no, she hadn't trapped a billionaire. She'd just accidentally sat down at the wrong table. But being without them, she was learning, meant something worse. It meant being safe and empty. She took a breath that felt like the first one in weeks. Then come in, she said. Relief washed over Marcus's face so fast he had to close his eyes for a second. The boys dragged her toward the couch, talking over each other. We draw volcano storms. No, she's sad. We draw hearts. We can draw both. Marcus stepped inside and closed the door gently behind him. They spent the afternoon making a mess of her small living room. Crayon shavings everywhere. Paper covering the coffee table. At one point, Max tried to draw on the wall. Nina caught his wrist and pointed to the page. That's rich person behavior, she told him. We're respectful of rentals. Marcus made grilled cheese in her tiny kitchen and somehow burned only one. They ate on the floor. The boys fell asleep with marker on their fingers and crumbs on their shirts. At the door, hours later, Nina held the frame and looked at Marcus. So what now, she asked. Now I try not to ruin your life again, he said. And you tell me when I'm about to. She nodded. Deal. Also, he added, I might have an idea. Campus dreams started small. 2 afternoons a week. 1 borrowed room in a community center that smelled like sweat and floor cleaner. A donated shelf for supplies. A trunk. Her old bag of brushes. A folding table someone's grandmother had given up. The first time she walked in with her crate of paints, a little girl looked up and said, Are you the lady from my mom's phone? Yes, Nina said. And I'm here to make a mess with you. Word spread. Not about Marcus, though rumors followed him like clouds. About her. About free art classes that didn't care if you'd never held a brush. About a woman who told you your angry red smears made sense and gave you yellow to lay beside them. Marcus funded it quietly, channeling money through a foundation that had 50 other donors. Her phone calls to the director of that foundation were short and awkward. You don't have to hide your name on this part, she said once. You worked for boring, he replied. Let me at least make the paperwork boring. He showed up sometimes, wearing hoodies and caps, hauling boxes in, washing brushes, cutting fruit for snack breaks. Some of the older kids recognized him. Most didn't care once the paint came out. The twins were unofficial assistants, handing out paper and demonstrating the proper way to draw blue, who now had more spin-off characters than a superhero franchise. Nina kept her apartment above the bookstore. She liked the sounds of the city, the creak of the stairs, the way Mrs. O'Gundiel downstairs saved her the good croissants on Sundays. But most evenings, she ended up at the cottage by the lake. They fell into a new pattern. Mornings, his world of panels and code and investors and negotiations. Afternoons, her world of color and chaos and small hands holding big brushes. Evenings, their world. Dinner at the cottage. Homework. Bath wars. Twin giggles. The occasional meltdown. The quieter moments when she'd catch Marcus watching the boys with an expression that said he was memorizing them. Grief didn't leave. It shifted. Julia's presence lived in photo frames and stories, and one particular recipe Leo insisted had to be done Mommy's way. Nina never tried to replace her. She made room around her. If this story is touching your heart, share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances. One evening, 6 months after the night of the wrong reservation, they found the bistro table. Riverside Bistro had renovated. New tables, new chairs, new everything. Some of the old pieces sat out back, stacked near a dumpster. Marcus saw it on his way in for a meeting with a potential investor he didn't even care about. Round, scuffed, a faint white ring from a long-forgotten glass. He ran his hand along the edge and felt the night press back. He asked the manager for it. "You want that old thing?" the man said. "We were going to throw it out." "Some mistakes are worth keeping," Marcus said. He spent a weekend sanding it at the cottage, twin helpers smearing sawdust on each other. He repainted it the same color it had been at the restaurant, left one small scratch untouched on the surface where Max had once dropped ketchup. On a warm evening, Nina stepped into the backyard and stopped. The table sat under the string lights, for mismatched chairs circling it. The lake glittered beyond. Wind chimes moved lazily. "You brought back the wrong table," she said. Marcus straightened, wiping his palm on his jeans. "Technically, I rescued it. From the trash." "That's some billionaire energy right there," she said. "Hoarding restaurant furniture." "Grilled cheese was eaten here," he said. "Seems important." The boys came barreling out of the house, carrying a small box wrapped in napkins. "Now?" Max asked. "Now," Marcus said, nerves making his stomach twist. They thrust the box at Nina. "For you," Leo said, vibrating. She opened it carefully, lifting the napkins away one by one. Inside lay a ring, beads from one of their craft kits. Tiny wooden spheres they'd painted every possible color had been threaded onto a narrow loop of wire. The circle was uneven and slightly lumpy, where someone's small fingers had twisted too hard. Nina gasped. "It's practice," Leo said quickly. "We can get a metal one later. But this one is the realest one for now." Her eyes filled. When she looked up, Marcus was already kneeling on the grass in front of her. Not dramatic, not staged, just dropping down like his legs had decided for him. "I used to think," he said quietly, "that love was something you earned by building big things. Companies, towers, numbers with a stupid amount of zeros. I thought if I could impress the world enough, it would mean I was worth staying for." He looked at the table, at the boys, at Nina. "And then I forgot my wallet at a restaurant," he said. "And a woman I didn't know paid for grilled cheese and fries and didn't ask for anything in return. You didn't care what I had. You cared that my hands were shaking when I reached for the bill." She laughed through her tears. "They were." He smiled faintly. "You saw a sad, tired dad in a bad jacket out with two kids who turned salt into mountains. And instead of running, you ordered soup and drew dinosaurs on napkins. You walked into the worst night and made it the day everything started over." The wind chimes clinked softly. The boys held their breath. "I can't promise you no more headlines," he said. "I can't promise nobody ever points a camera at you again. I can't promise my world won't crash into yours in messy ways sometimes. But I can promise this. Every time it does, I will be between you and it. I will be the one they take pictures of. I will be the one who answers the questions. I will never ask you to pay the kind of price you paid once just for knowing me." His voice roughened. "And I will keep choosing grilled cheese with you and these two over any boardroom on any day they make me pick," he said. "That's the only kind of rich I care about anymore." He held up the beaded ring, his hand not quite steady. "Nina Torres," he said, "be the heart of this home. Will you marry me?" She looked at him, at the boys, eyes huge, hands clenched, at the battered table, at the lake, at the life they'd somehow built out of grief and chaos and wrong turns. She thought of all she'd given up stepping through that apartment door. The safety of anonymity, the simplicity of being a nobody, the job that should have been hers longer. She waited against Max's sleepy head on her shoulder after a long day, against Leo's shy smile when she clipped his hair out of his eyes, against the way Marcus's shoulders finally relaxed sometimes in the quiet of the cottage, like his bones had been waiting for this exact stillness. The scale wasn't even close. "We've been a family for a while," she said, tears spilling over. "You're just catching up." The boy shrieked. Marcus slid the ring onto her finger. It sat crooked and perfect. She laughed and kissed him, quick and sure, and they toppled backward into the grass with the boys diving on top of them. For a moment, the world was all limbs and laughter and the smell of cut grass and kid shampoo. Later, when the boys had been put to bed with unconvincing threats not to sneak back out, Nina and Marcus sat on the porch swing. The bead ring glinted on her hand in the moonlight. The wrong table stood in the yard like an altar to second chances. Do you ever think about the girl who texted you? Nina asked quietly. The broke single dad message, he said. Sometimes, mostly to send her mental thank yous. She huffed a laugh and leaned into him. She has no idea. Neither did I, he admitted. The swing creaked. The lake moved. A frog somewhere made a single, indignant sound. He looked at the ring on her finger, then at her. Hey, he said. For the record, best grilled cheese I've never paid for. She smiled, eyes soft. Worth the investment? She asked. He kissed her knuckles, bead ring pressing into his lips. Best return I've ever had, he said. Behind them, wind chimes whispered. Inside, the boys dreamed. In the yard, the wrong reservations table waited for the next messy, loud, ordinary meal. Sometimes love didn't come in on time, or through the right profile picture, or from the right side of town. Sometimes it showed up late, out of breath, with paint on its sleeves and a wallet that had no business paying for anyone else's dinner. Sometimes it sat at the wrong table, knocked over the salt, and turned 4 separate lives into one home. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more heart-healing stories like this. Drop a like if you believe wrong tables can lead to the right people. Tell me in the comments, which moment hit you the hardest in Marcus and Nina's journey?